Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us tonight. We're live in Abuja. This is the Ballot. A very good evening to you, and thanks for joining us. We do have a breaking news from the INEC headquarters here in Abuja that the elections, state governorship elections and the State Houses of Assembly elections earlier scheduled for this weekend for March 11 has been moved and postponed to March 18. Details of these will be reaching you before we conclude our program for tonight. I'd like to repeat again the governorship and State Houses of Assembly elections earlier scheduled for March 11 has now been postponed to March 18. And that's it from INEC. Details of this postponement we'll try and bring that to you in the course of this program as we get more details from the INEC office. A very good evening to you, and thanks for joining us tonight. What an intriguing Wednesday we've had so far. As a matter of fact, I expect to see more interesting developments as we approach the D-Day, that is election day. Given how intense this electioneering season has turned out to be. Tonight's program promises to be revealing, as I will be bringing you two governorship candidates from the same party but from neighboring states. I know as eligible voters in the two states that we're focusing on, you may have lots of questions for these candidates, and so I am putting myself in your shoes and I will be making the inquiries on your behalf and hoping some of the answers we will be getting from these candidates will help you gain some level of clarity as to their planned policy. For now, let's bring you some of the major news highlights for tonight.
When we planned for the first set of elections, we knew we had issues.
Distribution of sensitive election material begins in local government councils across participating states for the election. Also tonight, we prospect on the chances of two governorship candidates and their quest to be the new occupants of the government house in their separate states. Well, like we told you, the reports just reaching us says that INEC has postponed the governorship and State House of Assembly elections in earlier schedule for March 11 to March 18, 2023. Our correspondent, Mayor Ogidi, is actually standing by at the INEC office. He is following up on developments there and will be bringing us updates as the election body, he says is on a marathon meeting to give details on the postponement. That's it. The Court of Appeal sitting in Abuja has also granted the Independent National Electoral Commission permission to reconfigure the bimodal voter accreditation system, BVAS, it used for the presidential election. The court, in a unanimous decision by a three-member panel of justices, held that stopping the electoral body from reconfiguring the BVAS would adversely affect the governorship and state assembly elections. It dismissed objections by the Labour Party, LP, and its presidential candidate, Peter Obi, that they raised against INEC's move to reconfigure all of the BVAS. According to the court, allowing the objections by Peter Obi and his party would amount to tying the hands of the respondents, which in this instance happened to be INEC. Meanwhile, the appellate court also granted the request of Peter Obi to carry out a digital forensic analysis on the BVAS used during the presidential election. The court did also grant leave to the president-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu to inspect the electoral materials used by or during the presidential election, I beg your pardon. Well, learning from Learning from the mistakes of the past, especially the February 25 presidential National Assembly elections, the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) has commenced distribution of sensitive material, election material to local governments within the 28 participating states for the governorship and state houses of assembly elections. We heard that the early distribution is to avoid late arrival of the material at the polling booths come election day.
So far, we have inspected alongside with other stakeholders. We have been able to ascertain that we have a full complement of the materials.
And this time around, we have improved, including the issue of ad hoc staff not reporting early to the polling units. This time around, I promise you.
It does look like INEC would now have plenty more days to now prepare for the election, as it will seem. But apparently, following the maxim that the reward for good work is more work, the Independent Campaign Council of the All Progressives Congress says it is galvanizing support through its amalgamated support groups to expand the party's victory in the governorship and state assembly elections. The group met in Abuja earlier today, what they described as strategic engagement amongst stakeholders.
There's no selection. No. Nigerians have spoken.
Yes. And the only way we can enjoy our victory is to humble ourselves and look at the way forward. What is ahead of us?
Well, now to get into the main business for tonight, if you have been monitoring the trends, political campaign trends and elections generally, then you would know, you must know that Kaduna State promises to be one of the states, of course, where elections will be fierce and highly competitive. I mean, for so many reasons. I mean, there are about 17 parties participating in the elections, but pundits will tell you, and very quickly too, that it could very well be a two-horse race. But tonight I have one of the two being referred to with me, joining me live from our Kaduna Network studio. He is a sitting senator, member of the National Assembly. He is the senator representing Kaduna Central, and currently the APC governorship candidate of the APC governorship candidate for Kaduna State, Senator Sani. I'd like to welcome you so much to the Ballot. Thank you for joining us tonight. The Ballot. Thank you for joining.
Having me. Thank you.
Fantastic. Let me just go straight into this, and like I usually say, I'd like to jump the gun, and ask you straight up on the get-go. Are you your own man? Are you likely to be your own governor? Because there have been criticism from different parts of your state where it's been alleged that you are the anointed candidate of the current governor. Do you see that like a good thing, as a good development, as an asset? Do you see that as an advantage? Or are you likely to be a governor who gets into office and is easily amenable to the dictates and dictums of his benefactor? Tell me very clearly, in terms of character, in terms of consistency, where are you right now as a candidate? I mean, and how much so do you stand as your own person?
Very much. First, I would like to thank you for giving me this opportunity tonight, but let me go straight to answer your question. I think those that are talking about the anointment are people that do not know, they don't have any idea about my track records or my antecedent. Probably there are people that just happens to know me a few years ago, but looking at my antecedent, my track records, maybe I need to educate them on my own track record. I started a long time ago when I was among the people that fought for the enthronement of democracy in Nigeria. Maybe people have to go back to look at my own records as a politician and as a civil rights activist in this country. And I worked with the former president of Nigeria, President Obasanjo, when we, after the 1999 election, as a special advisor to the president of Nigeria on public affairs. After that, I also contested election a few times. I contested 2011 for the Senate, I lost. And of course, I also supported my own friend, Governor Erufai, in 2015 to be elected as a governor of Kaduna State. I worked with Governor Erufai between 2015 to 2019, when I also decided to contest for the Senate. And I was elected unanimously. I went into a very competitive primary with my own opponents, and I won the primaries. Then I got into the Senate. And in the Senate, I happen to be the chairman, Senate Committee on Banking, Insurance, and Other Financial Institutions. And as we are speaking, I have 32 bills to my name. And I'm the only senator, apart from the distinguished Senator Omo Agege, we are the only two senators with 2 bills that have been assented by Mr. President that have become laws in this country. And if you look at my own achievement in terms of attracting investment, as well as interventions and development to my own state, I can tell you here without any further contradiction that it's unprecedented in the history of Kaduna State. I was able to attract investment and intervention worth about 4 billion. Right now, as we are speaking, I'm building a faculty of engineering in Kaduna State University that comprises of...
I hear you, and I hear you loud and clear. I'm glad we've been able to get that out of the way. I mean, it is the big elephants in the room. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's talk about your plans for Kaduna people. Your manifesto is based on a 7-point agenda: strengthening safety and security, upgrading or upgrade of infrastructure amenities around Kaduna, there, strengthening institutions, as well as enhancing trade and investment. I feel like you think the bulk of the foundational work is already in place. And so what you plan to do seems to be like to consolidate on existing efforts. I'll attempt to take the issues, one at a time, so you can speak to them. Let's take safety and security for starters. What exactly has changed in the last 7.5 years in containing various criminal activities that gives you the impetus to push the frontiers in your own security framework for Kaduna State?
The National Assembly, I can tell you here straight that I know the problem we're having in this country, not in Kaduna State, but in Nigeria, when it comes to the issue of insecurity. That is why I happen to be the senator that sponsored the bill for the creation of state police. And I'm also the senator that sponsored the bill to amend the Firearms Act in our own country. So if you look at those areas of my intervention as a senator, you will agree with me that it's probably because I look at the constitutional deficiency we're facing in our own country. If you look at the Constitution, state governors do not have powers to control the security apparatus of our country, particularly the police, the army. They don't get their own directives from the state governors, it's from the federal government. That is why we try to decentralize the issue of security in our own country. And that is the reason why I came with the intervention. But coming to my own manifesto, we look at the situation critically, knowing fully that our effort to create the state police is still in process. We have not achieved that, but we believe that would have been the solution. But having tried that, we have plan B. What is a plan B? As a state governor, I've looked at what Governor Erufai has been doing in the last 7.5 years. That is why, despite all the complaints by some of our opposition regarding the insecurity in our country and in Kaduna State in particular, the issue is the issue of banditry and terrorism. And that is why we try to partner with the federal government who control the army. And as we are speaking, we have been able to talk with the federal government, and they have established a military command in Benungwari local government as we're speaking, and we have the Air Force base established there because we believe the terrorists must be wiped out through aerial bombardment, and because of that, we have been having some relative peace in Benongwari and some part of Kaduna State. So that is why I believe I need to improve the level of partnership with the federal government. That is one. Number two, we need to also retrain our vigilante and give them training and support them, and also look at the technology level in terms of intelligence gathering. We also want to bring our community leaders, religious leaders, traditional leaders. They also have a role to play in terms of intelligence gathering to support the security agencies in our country. All these are part of my own manifesto when you're talking about the issue of insecurity and how we intend to tackle it.
State would want to, yeah. I'm very sure they already know that security to some extent is on the exclusive list, but then they would also want to know what your plans are, and how your plans will fit into that of the federal government to boost security in Kaduna State. I'm happy you've been able to highlight a few of them. I would have loved for us to expand on some of what you've said, but because we're fast losing time and we need to rush over to talk about some other issues. So let's just quickly talk about your infrastructural plan, upgrade of infrastructure, which could very well capture healthcare delivery. And I'm sure you are typically aware of the El-Rufai Primary Health Center project. It's popularly called the 255. I had the opportunity some time ago to visit the primary health center in Sabo Tachi in Chukum, a local government area, and another one in the line somewhere around Zakim Tudunwada in Zaria. And what I noticed is this: while I notice increases in average live birth, which of course is a good indices of how things may have changed and are changing, arising from improvement in services, my question, however, revolves around, again, consolidation. And how do you plan to tackle the issue of unstocked pharmacies in some of these PHCs and the non-functional states of medical laboratories at some of these centers? Secondly, I'd like for you to just take this at once. How exactly does your healthcare plan spotlight communication on disease prevention measures to curb childhood-related ailments?
We start by first talking about the infrastructure that you just mentioned here. Let me not skip it. As you are aware, in 2019 we sat down with the governor, even though by then I was already in the Senate. We sat down and we discussed about the urban renewal program of the governor on how we can be able to now invest heavily on the issue of developing our own metropolitan local governments. And having done that with the governor, as we are speaking now, Kaduna State have developed, and the governor have done more than any other governor in the history of Kaduna State in terms of infrastructure development, in terms of our urban renewal. So my approach, if you look at manifesto that I have just been able to put together, we are focusing on rural areas now. We have other local governments that the governor have already established primary health care. We have 255, one in each of the wards. We have 255 wards in our 23 local governments. What we are trying to do is to also build more primary health cares, at least 2 more in each wards of states. That is what we intend to do. Then again, going forward, we intend to build roads as well as more schools in our rural areas, particularly some local governments that have not been captured by the governor. That is our plan. It's not a plan of 4 years. The plan is about 12 years plan, which by the grace of God, I will build from the governor's effort in building infrastructure. Now I'm focusing on the issue of rural areas, particularly local governments that are not within the metropolitan. Again, having said that, we have built, even as a senator, it will interest you to know that I have already built laboratories and some hospitals in some local government as my intervention efforts. That is to show you that I'm also very conscious of the fact that we need to improve healthcare in our own communities, particularly in our rural areas, because as we are speaking...
I'll let that go for now. and then take you to another issue that I consider quite germane, and I'm sure you're aware of the seeming ethno-religious divide in Kaduna State, and I wonder how you intend to navigate the rather delicate lines yourself, if given the mandate, of course, by your people to be governor of the state. There is even a segment of Kaduna people who, rightly or wrongly, say that development projects are not spread across the state, that they don't get to their area, but that they are focused in certain parts, at the detriment of those who do not support the current administration. I am asking if, I'm not asking if this is true or not, but I am more interested in how you, if you become governor, intend to govern a deeply divided with extreme traditional and intense religious temperament. What kind of reconciliation do you envision or envisage, and how quickly do you see that happening to foster the peace that your state would require to grow?
Let me correct the impression that Kaduna State is facing any religious crisis at the moment or ethnic differences at the moment. For me, that is in the past. In the last 6 years, we've not witnessed any religious crisis in Kaduna State. And because we have tried as much as possible to be just to everyone, so there is not any problem of religious crisis. So the division people are talking about, I think, is in the past. Right now, we do not face any crisis of religious differences in our own state. Having said that, for those that have known me for a long time, they know I'm someone who works closely with Christians. I don't have any problem with people because of their faith. Most of the people working with me closely are Christians who are even managing my businesses and my offices. So I don't have any problem with working with anybody because of his religious faith or anything. But in terms of development and taking infrastructure to every part of Kaduna State, that is what is in our plan. But the reason why a lot of people are complaining that some development have not reached some local governments is unfortunate. That metropolitan local governments consist of local government within Kaduna Central that I am representing as a senator. If you look at other part of Kaduna, like Zone 1 in particular and Zone 3 that are not central, only 2 or 1 local government, 2 local government were captured as metropolitan, like Kapanchan, that's Jama local government, and Kache local government. Going to Zone 1, you agree with me that it's Zaria and Savangari. But when you're in the central zone, most of the local governments benefited. So there's nothing like discrimination. Every local government benefited with that. And I benefited with that. And I benefited.
Sorry for butting in here. I need to rush you off to another segment of our program called Ticking the Boxes. But just before I do that, do you feel like you're caught in a hard place sometimes, or rather now at this moment with, even though INEC has moved or shifted the elections to March 18, do you feel like you're caught in a hard place, especially when you remember or you recall the performance of the PDP in Kaduna State? And some will say the unraveling of the leader of your party in Kaduna State, whose critics have said is that the election was a test on his popularity and that he has been found wanting in the last election. Do you perhaps have a secret card to play come election day or before election day?
I think without disrespecting the candidate of PDP in particular, I can assure you that the people of Kaduna will come out on the 18th of March to vote on the basis of our own track record. So I don't believe the people of Kaduna will bother voting for the candidate of PDP. Here is the man who was in the National Assembly for 8 years. And you can go and check, you're a journalist, even tomorrow, go to National Assembly. He spent 8 years in the National Assembly without sponsoring a single bill. He did not even at that time attract a project worth ₦1 billion in 8 years. And I challenge anyone who had contrary views about
election does not shake you in any way. That's in that case, I think your supporters will be happy for you. But time now to take you to the next segment of our program. Like I said, it's called Ticking the Boxes. You will be confronted with four public policy issues, and you will be given 3 options to choose from. These options would revolve around the feasibility of these targets and whether or not they can be achieved within the time frame of 4 years. Ticking the Boxes is up next. Senator, I'll just go straight into ticking the boxes and bring them up so you would see. But a very quick reminder that most of the issues on the box are public policy issues. Again, they are to be gauged within a timeline of 4 years, which amounts to the first term in office of an elected governor. I'll begin with the very first one, ending insecurity. Do you think it's a target that you can achieve in Kaduna State within the first 4 years of your administration if mandated by the people to serve as governor?
I think that is realistic in the next 4 years, by the grace of God.
Okay, so I reckon you've chosen realistic there. We'll go to the very next one, access to basic education. Basic education now, we're saying for every child of school age. Is this something you think is realistic within 4 years? Is it a target that is unrealistic? Are you undecided on the matter?
I think this is realistic because the government of Kaduna State, as we are speaking, Kaduna State is only said to have free education from primary school to the secondary school. So that for me is building up on that. We already have free primary and secondary school education in Kaduna State. It's just for me to build it. So for me, that is the most easiest one because we have taken education as the most important agenda of our government.
Senator, let me move you along rather quickly to the next target on the box, the universal healthcare delivery, even though you've alluded to primary healthcare delivery services in Kaduna and what you intend to do. But do you really think it is a target you can achieve in 4 years? Do you think that's realistic? Do you think it's unrealistic? Are you undecided on the matter at this point?
Universal basic, what I can see. I think that for me, the issue of healthcare, also universal healthcare, for me is also something that's extremely realistic, and I have no doubt in my mind we can be able to achieve that.
With realistic for all of your targets, let's see if you go with realistic for the last one, which is urban renewal. You made allusions earlier that the current governor, Malam Nasiru El-Rufai, already began the process. Is this something you need or you think you can consolidate in the next 4 years? Is it realistic as well? Is it unrealistic? Are you undecided on the matter?
I will prepare to see investment in rural areas because the urban renewal in Kaduna State about 70 to 80% have been done. But like I said, in my manifesto, I'm focusing on the rural areas. So the rural areas, for me, I don't think I can be able to finish it in 4 years. It might be something that will be longer than 4 years. But the urban renewal have already been done and about 80% have been achieved as we are speaking. But the rural development, that will take more than
4 years. Is that the point? You could easily achieve that in a year or two. Is that the point you're trying to drive home, yeah? Since it's almost as good as completed. But I know I've been to some parts of Kaduna that still needs some work. I don't know, maybe they fall under the 20% yet to be concluded or yet to be renewed.
The urban renewal, like I said, we have done about 80%. And I want to emphasize that my focus right now is the rural investment because our rural areas needs a lot of investment in terms of roads, in terms of schools, in terms of healthcare, and the governor have started by building 255. But I will try as much as possible to do it, but I don't think I can be able to finish development of the rural areas within 4 years. That could not be realistic.
I'd like to thank you so much for coming on the ballot this night. I know it was quite a short notice, but would like to appreciate you for joining us nonetheless. Would like, on behalf of the NTA, would like to wish you very good luck in your current campaign. We're looking forward to see what happens on Saturday, and hopefully at the end of this exercise, the governorship election, we should be able to sit down and review what happened. Senator Sani, APC governorship candidate for Kaduna State, thank you so much for joining us tonight on the ballot.
Thank you for having me. Thank you very much.
Well, that's not it. We still have another guest for you tonight. It will be another governorship candidate from a neighboring state, Niger State, as a matter of fact. But we will be giving you that and bringing you that interview when we return from this break. Do stay. The Nigerian electoral system is seemingly simple, yet may be complicated for some.
It's for them to come and tell us what they have.
Running an election is equivalent to what? A job application.
I want him to identify the issues plaguing the common Nigerians.
PDP should focus on PDP and APC should focus on APC.
Let's show you what an election is all about as Nigerians pick the next president, governors and legislators. We interrogate their plans, question the rationale and review the prospects. Join us on the ballot.
To every politician, as the campaigns gain momentum and passions begin to rise, remember, the errors of your opponents do not make you a success. Do not run down your opponent and inflame passions to violence between and among your supporters. What counts is what you plan to do for the electorate and how you intend to relieve the sufferings and bring succor. Nigeria is in dire need of patriotic leaders at all levels, leaders who will make national development their priority. Concentrate on telling the electorate what you intend to do when you get into office. Focus on making your vision clear to the electorate. Don't engage in verbal abuses, fake news or speeches. Keep dealing with issues that will bring progress. You win the hearts and minds of the people by being above board, by being civil, patriotic and showing empathy. Let's join hands to make the 2023 elections peaceful. A message from the National Orientation Agency.
Oh boy, this one where your eye red. You carry machete, you see carry gun. Wetin you want take and do,
See, as I dey para like this, I don't vex.
Oh boy, calm down down now.
Like this, like this, I dey go scatter those two businesses. You know, say they take scatter our people businesses, You don't see them. See, and they go there, as I go like, and they go show them better craze. They never see anything.
If you destroy their own for here, and they destroy your people own for that side, especially that your brother where they send you money, that way don't block, oh. How you go take survive?
See, this way talk not true, but I see the vex.
Boy, calm down. Make we embrace peace. We peace and unity. Everybody.
My people, make we gum body with peace and unity. Make we learn to live as brothers and sisters, so that we country go feel move go permanent side. This message now from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
And now to our next business of the night. But then I'd like to give you some background of the state in focus before I introduce my guest. It's popularly called the Power State. Incidentally, not because it is the home state of two former Nigerian heads of state, but because it houses three major hydroelectric dams in Nigeria. I mean the Kanji, Shiroro, and the Zungeru. It is also the state with the largest landmass in Nigeria. It's pegged at 86,000 kilometers square. But how that has translated into an Algerian, I beg your pardon, prowess is something my guest may need to respond to. My guest is a sitting member of parliament representing Chachanga Federal Constituency at the House of Representatives. Is not new to contestations at the top level. I recall the one he had where he vied for the speakership of the House of Representatives and came second, a close one by the way, to the winner and current speaker, Femi Gbajabiamila. These days, my guest has set his sights on another target. This one, the top political seat in Niger State. I have the governorship candidate of the All Progressives Congress in Niger State, Honorable Mohammed Umar Bago, joining me live from Mina. Welcome to the ballot. I'd like to welcome you to the ballot, Honorable. Can you hear me?
There's no volume.
Can you hear me? Let's see if we can re-establish contact there, if you can hear me. We seem to be having some issues with audio there. Let me just attempt to see if we can re-establish that. If you can hear me now, please indicate. there's something we call in local parlance here, hype man. I just hyped you. I wish you got that. But then I'd like to welcome you to tonight's program. Thank you so much for joining us.
Okay, thank you very much.
Well, I did a cursory look at your blueprints, and you seem rather strong on pushing out plans for security, infrastructural and socio-economic development of Niger State. You captured all of these in your strategic plan. One you said would rebrand and birth a new Niger State. All impressive on paper, I must say. I mean, but having a plan is different from having a goal. I'm sure you must have surpassed that foundational level of planning in your current bid. How did you avoid that concept of paralysis of analysis, where being able to determine what you need to definitely focus on and what you don't need to focus on, such as unrealistic targets? And again, how do you intend to uncluster some of the prevailing challenges in Niger State to achieve these dream states you talk about, if we're speaking generically now?
Okay, I didn't hear your first question because your mic is off your mouth. It's a little bit far, but I guess you are talking about my plans for the state, if I got you right.
Yes, your dream, creating the dream Niger State that you've touted in your blueprint. You've talked so much about rebranding the state. You've talked about the birth of a new state. I was wondering how you intend to uncluster some of the prevailing challenges in Niger State and perhaps escape, and how you escaped that paralysis of analysis to come up with a definite plan that handles some of these projects that you have for the people.
Okay, first and foremost, how we avoided whatever you call paralysis or something. We are Nigerites and we don't have any other state outside Niger. And as a generation, we know very well that we need to carve a niche for ourselves. And this time around, by the grace of God, the youths have gotten it right. So we have looked at our chances as a nation, as a state. What can we do? What is the difference? What can we do differently? Now, we are ravaged with insecurity, and we are thinking of how to come out of these insecurity issues. We've looked at our mainstay as an economy to be agriculture. How do we make agriculture what it should be in Niger State? How do we tap from the potential of the agriculture we have? We've looked at education. As a bedrock of this society, we need to give everybody equal opportunity to go to basic schools and have basic education. We've looked at health and seen that, okay, public health is a necessity, it's not a luxury. It must be, it's a compulsory thing. We must give the citizens provision and access to public health. We've looked at tourism because of the potentialities of tourism in Niger State. So these are the 5 things we have put as an agenda, and they are achievable.
For whatever time that we have, I hope we can touch on some of these issues that you've raised, because they are quite germane, and like you talked about in your blueprint, these are the issues you'd like to really focus on. So why don't we start with insecurity that you started with? And speaking more specifically now, I am rather intrigued with your approach, to curbing insecurity in Niger State, because I read that part of your manifesto. Your plan is an amalgam of a kinetic and non-kinetic response structure. It seeks to incorporate traditional and local institutions. You talk about connecting with these groups, but I'm not so clear, or I did not grasp the concept of how you intend to do that. So, truth be told, and you and I know this, that we still get reports or pockets of reports of security breaches across.
I can't hear you. It's too far.
That's rather sad.
Can you put your mic on your mouth?
Okay, no, it's actually there. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. It's better and very clear.
Oh, fantastic. So I said I took a look at your blueprint on security, and now it's an amalgam of the kinetic and non-kinetic response structure, which seeks to incorporate traditional and local institutions. You talk about connecting with these groups. but it's not so clear on the methodology and how you intend to do that. And I said, we still get reports of pockets of security breaches across Niger State, whether we're talking of attacks from terrorists, kidnappers, and bandits, whether we're talking about cattle rustlers and rampaging X-Men. But what I want you to give to me is a clearer picture of how your security plan is likely to fit into that of the central government, I mean the federal government, and evoke the kind of activities capable of giving the results that you hope for in Niger State.
Okay, Niger State is provided into three geopolitical political zones, again, Zone A, Zone B, Zone C. And incidentally, the first non-kinetic approach has been implemented in Zone A, the Nupe-speaking area, and 99.9% they are free from all these vices. Now, when you go to Zone C, where you have borders with Zamfara, Kebbi and everything, it wasn't like this before. They are applying that in and it's yielding results. When you come to this other zone, yeah, you can also see that it's working. It means you are bringing traditional institutions to governance, to give them responsibility and roles. And how do you do that? Everybody that lives in a society, you take the census of the population, you know exactly who is new, who is not there, what they do, what they don't do. And you work with the security agencies and, you know, with that, you have information about everybody. It makes you plan, it makes you understand exactly where our challenges are. And this is exactly what we're going to do. And by the grace of God, it's going to yield this thing. Then secondly, when you talk about rustling of cows, the Fulani herdsmen are the ones that suffer most and the ones that are perpetuating it. Now, when you give them the ranger job, you know, you equip them, give them facility, train them, and, you know, give them communication gadgets to give you information of and track movement of these rustlers. It's easy. You know, you empower them, you bring them to governance, you bring them to system. And again, these Fulani people must not be cattle rearers. You know, you have to provide them schools, let them understand they can be pilots, they can be engineers, they can be doctors, and so on and so forth. So you give them provision and you provide the services to them. Honestly speaking, they will come on board, and by the grace of God, it is going to help us completely. So this is the approach.
And I hear you again. You also talked about education, and in terms of education, I mean, that's when you talk about socio-economic development and you know, and now education helps. I'm interested in how your plan establishes that nexus between harnessing human capital and sustaining and creating sustainable development, which education does. But, Honorable, let me quickly tell you about a study that I came across. It's a study that was carried out in 10 schools, in 3 local government areas, Gurara, Bogi, and Mashugu. I'm very sure I murdered the pronunciations of those names, but I'm quite sure you'll be familiar with them. It was quite an expansive study, but the data analysis was quite worrisome in terms of girl-child. And I know that you have plans for education for every child in Niger State. But in terms of girl-child and the problems identified, such as ignorance by some parents on the value of formal education, early marriages, and the absence of role model, I want to know how you plan, or your educational plan, factors these vulnerable and disadvantaged persons. Let me not say that women are generally vulnerable and disadvantaged. The feminists might not like that. But do you have plans to reverse a challenge like the one I've just told you now?
Yeah, first and foremost, there are 3 issues you have discussed. One, the infrastructure of the schools. You know, in this modern age and in this kind of government we want to come on board, we don't have to put government resources in fixing schools. We're going to encourage corporate organizations to put in their CSR in schools, and that will help us have a lot of schools being renovated, being fixed, being built. However, It's not just enough to build schools or classrooms and provide furniture. You need to bring in modern technology of learning. It means it has been proven by the COVID-19 that people did e-learning, and e-learning has come to stay. So access to internet services, access to computers is very, very important. This again will encourage companies, individuals, and so on and so forth to come in and invest and also donate to our cause. Now, when you talk about girl-child education, we have said as a policy statement, and we're not going back on that, basic education must be free and compulsory. So, because we are
Honorable,
going
does it in any way
to be working with the traditional institution,
Honorable, does it in any way specifically target the girl child?
Because we are going to be working with the traditional institutions, we understand very well, like, okay, we'll make it a law. It has happened, it has worked before. You know, girl child education was compulsory, you know, but it was not free. But now it is free and compulsory. And I can tell you the trend will be reversed. Okay. Now, mentorship. When we talk about mentorship, for instance, yes, we have said when we come on board the next council election that's going to come up after the tenure of these people expire, we will make it a law that all vice chairmen and secretaries of every local government council must be female. Oh, this fantastic. Will give inspiration to the female gender that, okay, they are participating. Okay. You know, and at local government council. And if you are going to have 11 wards with 11 councillors, you make sure that you 50-50 it. You know, this gives also inspiration to girls' child, and it gives other parents hope that their children can also get to that level. These are all ways we are thinking of how to give mentorship to the girl child.
Honorable, I can assure you that Nigerians watching, not just people from Niger State.
Can you speak out? I can't hear you.
Yes, Honorable, I said I can assure you that Nigerians watching, and not just people from Niger State, have noted what you've just said. And I hope it's not political rhetoric. They have written it down somewhere and will take you up on your word if you do emerge governor of Niger State to say that during your campaign you promised that all secretaries of local government councils will be female. As a
Can you put your mic by your mouth, please? Just hold it.
Okay, so it's rather unfortunate that you can't hear me. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Can you keep the mic like that? I can hear you now. Can you keep the mic like that,
Okay,
please?
fantastic. So I'll leave the mic this way if you can hear me, so it works. I was just reiterating. Yeah, I was just reiterating that the latter part of what you said in your conclusion to my last question, that I wanted to guarantee you that Nigerians generally, and not just people from Niger State, would have noted what you said about making it compulsory for all local government secretaries in local government councils to be female, and they would hold you to that if you do emerge as governor of Niger State. And I'm hoping it's not just mere political rhetoric. But then let me quickly go to tourism, where you talked about the economy. So let's talk economics now, and how your state has fared in terms of the economy, considering a rising domestic debt stock, which as at last September stood at over 98 billion naira, according to the DMO. What creative or innovations do you have in mind to increase the internally generated revenue of your state?
You need to understand that we are in a vintage position as a state. We are sitting on 76,000 square kilometers of arable land, and just less than 2,000 or 3,000 square kilometers of this land is being cultivated, mechanized farming. So we're investing so much in mechanized farming, that's in terms of cultivation. We're also going to be doing a lot of ranching and fishery. You understand that Niger State has 4 hydropower dams. The overflow of these dams are going to be dammed again for irrigation. So we're not going to be like waiting for any season to do our farming. This is going to boost our economy. Secondly, fishing. We will be able to feed Nigerians with river fish and export some fish, because the river flows in 4 directions in Niger State. We have 4 major cross of this river Niger in Niger State. So we have River Kaduna, we have River Niger, spanning to almost Kwara. So fishing is going to be also promoted and helped. If you remember, after the COVID-19, the CBN and the NISAL gave a lot of loans, but you know, we had some natural disasters of flood. Niger is a very, very flood-prone state because of this river, so a lot of investment has gone down. So we want to discourage people from even farming during rainy season. It will be a holiday for Nigerites when we are done with these dams and when we start this thing. That is one. Secondly, our proximity to FCT, we've not tapped into it very well. On the right side, you have Tafa local government. On this other side is Suleja local government. This is about 40 kilometers on the two sides, and neighboring Abuja. We need to establish industrial parks. What Ogun sounds to be for Lagos is what Suleja would be and Tafa be to FCT. We'll be able to bring by housing, we'll bring in industrial parks completely to come there so that I can thrive. 80% of aluminium work that is done in Abuja is produced in Suleja, Gauraka. The markets are not there. It's not really organized market. On Thursday, if you want to travel to Abuja, you would see the mess and the menace on the highway. People are using the highway for market. We'll build them new market, transfer them out of that, and these markets will be reorganized. And that is way of getting revenue.
Are all laudable. These are all laudable. These are. Let me just boost this audio so you can hear me clearly. I don't know if you can hear me clearly now.
Yeah.
Fantastic, great.
Yeah,
so I was just going to say these are all laudable economic programs, and I'm just wondering how you will get the funds to finance some of them. And I'm hoping that maybe you're going to public partnership to achieving some of these key targets. I hear you've been getting lots of endorsements, not surprisingly from the Niger State government and APC faithfuls, but surprisingly from a few of your colleagues in the House of Representatives. I recall the one by Sergio Ogun, who is of the PDP. That's why it's quite surprising. Your confidence of clinching victory in the governorship polls, is it buoyed by your party's performance in the last presidential and National Assembly elections, or is it more of by what you personally represent as a candidate, your character, and whatever consistency you have demonstrated as a representative of your people in the last few years?
It's the two-way.
It's the two-way. First, we've won as a party. We have a presidential we have our president-elect and our vice president-elect. It gives confidence to Nigerians that, okay, if we're in tandem with the federal government where you have your president, it's easier for the government of Niger State to enjoy federal patronage, you know, more than opposition government. That is number one. On the other side, we have campaigned very well. Even before campaigns, we've done very well. We are close to the people. You need to understand very well in quotes, this is a people's mandate. You know, I didn't clinch my ticket because I had a godfather who endorsed me or anything. No.
Okay,
the
great.
people wanted it, both the older people,
Honorable,
both the youth,
unfortunately,
both the women.
we are totally out of time. If you can hear me, sorry, I'm so sorry for butting in at this point. But before I let you go, I would like to rush you, even if it's for 60 seconds. I would like to show you a board that I'll put on the screen now. It's called Ticking the Boxes. We will give you some policy, public policy issues, and I'd like for you to adjudge whether you think these issues can be achieved by your administration if given the mandate within 4 years. Please look at the board very quickly. The first one is ending insecurity. Do you think this is something you can...
No, hold on.
No, hold.
Have you seen... Can you see the box now? Can you see it now? Is there a TV set close to where you are, where you can see it?
Okay, yeah, I can see the box.
Fantastic,
Okay, yeah,
fantastic.
I can see the box.
So the first item on the box there says the first target is ending insecurity. Do you think this is a target you can realize in 4 years of your administration if given the mandate? Do you think it's unrealistic? Are you undecided on the matter?
I'm not. I'm confident in 4 years we'll put that behind us.
Realistic then. Quickly, let's go to the second one, and I know you've talked about that. So I see you easily going for realistic here. Access to basic education within 4 years. Do you think that is something you can give to a substantial majority of children of school age in Niger State? Is that realistic? Is that unrealistic? Are you undecided on the matter?
No, it's realistic. This is one of our major trusts.
A universal health care delivery, do you think that is something else that is realistic in 4 years in Niger State? Do you think it's unrealistic? Are you undecided on the matter?
It's realistic.
Realistic, fantastic.
It's
now
realistic.
we'll go to the final item on the board, target on the board. It's urban renewal. Do you think that is something that you can also achieve in 4 years? Do you think it's unrealistic? Are you undecided on the matter?
I'm sure I'm going to invite you to Niger in 4 years for you to start commissioning
I would
projects. Yes,
also
we're
hold
going
you
to
to that. I'm somewhat of a very good investigator when it comes to issues like this. So we'll see when it happens. We'll come to Niger and we'll see for ourselves. I'm sorry. I need to butt in. I'm sorry. We do not.
I want you to keep tapped with Niger. Once we finish election and we are sworn in, I want you to come close to Niger so that you can keep us on our
I'd like to thank you very much for coming on the program this night, Honorable Muhammad Umar Bago, governorship candidate of the All Progressives Congress for Niger State. I do wish you best of luck in your current campaign, and hopefully we'll see how things go. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And that's it on tonight's episode of the program. Do remember, like we told you at the top of the hour, that the governorship and state houses of assembly elections has been moved, shifted, postponed now to March 18, not the previously scheduled dates of March 11. I'll see you again tomorrow, God willing, and same time as usual, 10:30 p.m. Until then, do have a lovely night. My name is Nnamdi Odipo. See you.